The Drums, Jonny, album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Brooklyn-based indie pop band The Drums. They have been at it for a few years now, since the early 2010s, and have been frontmanned by Mr. Jonathan Pierce. And overnight in the early 2010s, I became completely obsessed with the band's sound. Between their self-titled album and their follow-up album, Portamento, this was just what I was looking for at the end of the day. Yeah, it was very simple music. It was very straightforward, not exactly the boldest sound in the world, but between just how unbearably catchy the hooks were and their blend of indie pop as well as new wave and jangle pop and modern surf, it just spoke to me. It was just the sort of catchy indie pop that I could just drift off to. I mean, some of those early singles are just so freaking catchy. But overnight, seemingly, they just hit the switch and turned a lot of things that was so great about the band off. Their follow-up album, Encyclopedia, showed Jonathan and the crew taking a lot more risks, going for an edgier sound, even darker at points. And for me, it was just a major flop all around. The simplicity of the Drums music is exactly what drew them to me in the first place. Their follow-up album, Abysmal Thoughts, I mean, honestly, I was hyped for this album. I loved the singles leading up to it. Full thing, though, is not good. It's just not consistent. It's not nearly, or at least I should say, as consistent as their early recordings. And the last time we heard from Jonathan and the crew, 2019's Brutalism, I couldn't even make it through the whole thing. It was just so cringeworthy. What happened to the lyrics here? My God, were they bad. However, this new album caught me off guard. I didn't even know this album was coming out, even though the Drums this year, since January, I feel like have been periodically dropping singles from this album, Jonny. And each single, my initial thought was, wow, they sound absolutely incredible. Now, this album did catch me off guard. It is a little late, and I'm sorry for that. I've been a busy boy. The Fall of the House of Usher, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, this is one of the longest releases from the Drums at 16 tracks and almost an hour in length. That shook me right there. And you know what? A lot of it is actually really, really good. I wanted all starts this album off, and this is the sort of anthemic, just upbeat, jangly start that I was looking for. It's a fairly subtle instrumental, but just hearing that and hearing Jonathan sing over it, it just really ushers in this band's sound really well. I love how sweet and tender and full of love it is, and just hearing each instrumental just kind of build itself up around Jonathan, it's exciting for me. I've loved this track since it dropped as a single. Get used to hearing that. You're gonna hear it a lot. And you can argue that this track didn't need to be 5 minutes. You're absolutely right, but I'm not bored by it. Isolette just brings me back. This is a stripped down, nothing fancy indie pop tune with a hell of a hook. It's so simple, it's got so much heart, but it's incredibly memorable. When Jonathan Pierce and company are on, they are able to craft indie pop tunes that do not leave your head. This is one of them. I'm Still Scared is a little bit more upbeat and jittery tune, doesn't want to sit still, has that slight post-punk edge too. And I'm all for that. I need that frantic energy. I actually really love it here. Like, this track just comes this close to getting off the rails with the constant drumming and the wailing synths, but it stays on track. It's short and sweet and really, really memorable. Better is really good too. This is just the sort of jangly, upbeat, super sweet indie pop that I grew up with. I will say this, one major plus that this album has going for it is Jonathan Pierce's songwriting. He seems to have really gotten his edge back as far as just writing unbelievably catchy tunes. This is absolutely one of them. And consistency-wise, while it does lead to this album's downfall eventually, we'll get to it, this is easily the best set of tunes the band has put out since Portamento. It's so catchy, it's so youthful. Is it a little straightforward? Absolutely, but I actually think that's a big plus to it. Plastic Envelope, I mean, leading up to this album, like I said, I was shocked by how great the singles were, and I actually think this is the best one here. I think it's the best track here. This is one of those joyous and instantaneous tracks of the bunch. It's unbearably catchy. I just love the sort of dreamy post-punk that comes in. Fans of Beach Fossils will probably love this. It doesn't overstay its welcome either. It's short and it's sweet. It's just expertly crafted indie pop that'll put a smile on you. And for an interlude, Protect Him Always is right on the money. This picks up exactly where Plastic Envelope ends off and just wraps things up really nicely. Did it have to be here? No, but it's actually really catchy and sweet. Now, let's be real. This album could have been trimmed a little bit. Like I said, this is by far the drum's longest album in a long time, like a really long time. And with Brutalism going down to like 34 minutes, I was shocked to see how long this album is. But then I hear tracks like Harms, and I'm like, why is this album so long? This is so unnecessary compared to where we were just at a second ago with Protect Him Always. This is the kind of interlude and sort of wrapping up of another track that we did not need here. And Little Johnny is even worse of a detour. This genuinely feels like Jonathan Pierce needed like one more track for 1 minute and 30 seconds and slapped this together. I mean, it sounds sweet, it sounds charming from a distance, but it doesn't have nearly as much heart as the rest of the album. And Dying, late in the album, really did, really break my heart, because I'm a huge Rico Nasty fan. But this is so not good. This is so drawn out. It's way, way, way too light and fluffy. It's got nothing to fall back on, and Rico's personality, her strongest part of her entire performance, is completely stifled by this track. Yeah, her singing isn't that good either. This track is not good. And sadly, Jonathan and crew do not do a good job of wrapping up this album either. Like Pool God, who did this? Come on. Who did this? Why does this track exist? This is so clunky and clumsy sounding. I am shocked that this track made the cut. And lyrically, I can assure you, nobody asked for this. Absolutely nobody. I think it's by far the worst track here, and it goes on forever. I mean, this track is 5 minutes. It feels like an eternity. And I used to want to die as a finale, I commend Jonathan for his heart and his vulnerability on this track. I really do, but you couldn't find a better place for this track? Some of the harmonies are really nice, but I feel like the themes here could have easily been tied on to another track on here. It's just a real wet fart of a finale, sadly. So no, this album is not perfect. As a matter of fact, it's far from it. Consistency has always been a thing with the drums. However, the bulk of truly great indie pop here, I still think it's worth a listen. Like Be Gentle, for example. Oh God, I could already hear it. People are either going to love this track or absolutely despise it. This is the drums on quiet mode, for sure. This is halfway between a chamber pop ballad and some serious Beach Boys worship, but I actually really adore it. It's really sweet on the ears and maybe the most deeply personal track here. I love the thing. A lot of the same feelings go towards Green Grass. It sounds almost identical from a distance. But these slower tracks are bringing out the most passionate side of Jonathan Pierce that I've heard since the self-titled Drums album. I mean, his harmonies here are beautiful enough to bring a tear to my eye. They are absolutely tremendous. And most importantly, it doesn't take me out of the great mood that I'm in. It's an awesome track. Obvious, also, great single. It's upbeat, it's jangly, it's got that just youthful blast of energy that I got from listening to the drums years ago. And when Jonathan Pierce is on a songwriting kick and he is delivering catchy hooks, they come in droves, my friends. Now, one other thing that I do want to point out that you can think of as a negative for this album is just how not bold this album is. Like, this is not by any means the next step in indie pop. This is not the drums reinventing anything. If anything, this is just the drums on cruise control and writing literally the catchiest indie pop tunes you will hear all year. That may come as a negative for you, but for me, I'm just looking at it for what it is. The Flowers is one of the most colorful and sunniest tracks here. And lyrically, while a little cheesy, it's actually one of my favorite lyrical moments of the entire album. I love the soaring guitar licks and just how dreary and downtrodden everything else is. And as far as their post-punk influence goes, look no further than this. Also, Teach My Body, it's really good. It's one of the lightest and dreamiest tracks here by far. And lyrically, I will say, it is probably one of the most cliche-filled tracks here. But Jonathan and company make it work with just how much heart is on display. Yeah, this is a toughie for me. I mean, looking at this album, before I even listened to it, I was like, this thing is long. I hope they can really keep it up. And the thing is, they can't, because when this album is bad, it's just confusing and hard to listen to. There's interludes that don't need to be here, and 5-minute experiments that go nowhere. That's bad. But on the other hand, this is easily still the most consistent they've been since Portamento. Jonathan Pierce's hooks on this album, the singing, the passion, the heart, the songwriting, it's all here. And I think that if you just look at this as a collection of unbearably catchy indie pop tunes that will stick with you for the rest of the year and into next year too, you'll actually really find a lot of great material on here. I just wish it was a little bit more consistent. This thing definitely could have been trimmed down is what I'm saying. But the material that is good here is enough to give this album a decent 7. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.